Hello and welcome to the Wealthy Trades Daily Market Forecast. This is actually the weekly market forecast too. Today is Monday, March 23rd, 2015. So let's get started. Gonna do a little recap of last week. Last week we had a lot of volatility. There was many big up days and down days, and a lot of intraday volatility. If you remember on Wednesday, I believe it was Fed Day. The Dow was down about 100 and some points before Janet Yellen started speaking, and then all of a sudden, bam, off to the races we go, and huge rally ensued. Okay, so last week, if you remember, what we did was we were looking for pairs opportunities. And the best performing sector for last week was now the reason why we were doing a pairs trade for last week is because the trend quality, we were in an uptrend, okay, based on the Wealthy Trades market trend quality gauge or trend gauge. We are in a weekly uptrend, but the trend quality was below 50%. So therefore, what we wanted to do is do a pairs trade, buy stocks or this sector that offers the best opportunity in the direction of the trend, and then sell stocks or the sector in the sector that's either the best performing sector in the opposite direction, or if all these sectors were positive, what we'd do is we'd look for the sector that gives us the best opportunities to short with the lowest quality overall. So that's what we were looking to do. So again, we were looking for long opportunities in the XLE, short opportunities in the long opportunities in the XLU, short opportunities in the XLE. So what I wanted to show was the performance last week. If you were to go into the best stocks, all right, within the XLU, and so on a weekly basis, we can see what the best stocks in the XLU is just by scrolling down, and this automatically gives us the best performing stocks within the XLU, and this is ranked, all right, by the hit percentage. How often do these stocks hit their trend side? And the ones that hit their trend side HPP, all right, so their trend side level, their expected upside, all right, in an uptrend, those are the ones that are going to be part of this list, and it's ranked by how often they hit it. So AEP is the stock within the XLU, and it was last week the same stock is the stock that has the highest hit rate on the trend side. So that AEP was the stock last week that hits its expected high most often within the best sector. In the XLE, the energy sector, SWN was the stock that hits the trend side, its trend side the most often. All right, so this is ranked. XLE is in a downtrend, so therefore it ranks and finds the 8 best stocks that have a tendency of hitting their downside level. As you can see, XLE, the trend side is lower than the counter trend. Trend side 74.93, counter trend side 78.89, because it's in a downtrend. So these 8 here represent the ones that have the highest tendency of hitting their downside level, and SWN was also the best stock for last week in the XLE. So I wanted to show you that quick, because what that represented was this is AEP last week, all right, in the XLU, because that was the best stock, the highest hit rate stock in the XLU, was up for the week. Last week was up, because you would have went long that stock, was up 3.96%. All right, you also would have shorted, remember, because the quality gauge wasn't that good, you would have went short in the worst in the stock in the XLE, which was SWN. That was up 1.18%. So therefore you would have made 3.96% and you would have lost 1.18% for overall return if you would have focused on the stocks in the XLU and the stocks in the XLE, 2.78%. That's in comparison to the S&P 500, or the SPY, was only up 1.79%. So great outperformance there if that's what you would have focused on. Just wanted to highlight that. We'll get into the dailies in a minute, but I do want to go over. I put this little work paper together, essentially just showing the sectors and what stocks on a monthly basis. So if I click on the monthly tab, I can see, okay, the XL, we should be long the XLV all month because quality's good, we're in an uptrend, it's doing great. But I wanted to show the power of the best performing stocks within each sector, right? So what I did is I took the XLV and I wanted to see how is the best stock, CAH, doing. And then I went into the XLP and I wanted to see, well, okay, how is CVS doing in an uptrend? The only sector that was in a downtrend on a monthly basis was XLE, so therefore we would have XLE, we would be shorting DO. So I wanted to see how the best stocks within each sector was doing in comparison to the overall market. And the outperformance is phenomenal. Okay, I want to highlight this. In the XLU, NI, okay, is the best stock to go into on a monthly basis. So here's the XLU. As I can see, NI on a monthly basis, NI is the best stock, has the highest tendency of hitting its upside level. So therefore, I just wanted to show you the power of the best stock. So NI in the XLU for the month is up 2.69%. In the XLV, CAH is the best stock. It's up 2.86%. XLP, CVS, this one's down. It's only down 0.23%. In the XLF, AIV, and again, let me click on it just so you guys can see that these are the actual stocks. I'm clicked on a monthly tab. XLF, scroll down, look at AIV. That stock's been there all month. AIV is up 9.43%. In the XLK, the technology sector, EA is only up 0.17. LEG, LEG is up 2.02 in the XLY. XLI, we got UNP down 2.33%. XLB, BLL is down 0.96%. And then the XLE, this is important to remember, DO, all right, so the XLE on a monthly basis is in a downtrend. So DO is the best stock to go into in a downtrend, so therefore we would have been shorting, all right? We would have been selling that stock, and DO is down 9.63%, so therefore it would have been positive because we would have been shorting that stock. Long story short, the average stock, all right, the average best stock in each sector that we called out at the beginning of the month, which are these 9 stocks right here, the average stock for wealthy trades is up 2.59%. Let's compare that to the S&P or the SPY on a monthly basis is down 0.17%. So the average stock in wealthy trades that wealthy trades picked out, the best stock, is up 2.59%, whereas the SPY itself is only up or down 0.17%. Again, the outperformance is phenomenal. I did the same thing last week. I said, okay, well, what were the best stocks in each sector? Yes, we did. We wanted to do a pairs trade, but what if we just focused on the best stocks in every sector, right? There's people on TV that tout diversification big time. Well, the best way to diversify is buy a stock in each one of the sectors. Or if you got one of the sectors in a downtrend, short the stock in that sector, the best stock in that sector. And if you would have done that last week, then here's the performance. AEP, 3.96%. I'm not going to go through all these. But anyway, here's the 9. On a weekly basis, you would have been up 2.55% last week by going in the direction of the overall trend, right, of the actual sector trend. And going into the best stock in each sector, you would have been up 2.55%. In comparison, the market was only up 1.79%. Again, phenomenal outperformance. You guys have access to all of this just by clicking on the sectors and figuring out what is the best stock, and the best stock is always represented over, in the best stocks, best performing stocks table, and it's always the upper left stock right here, and it's indicated by the HPP percentage. As you can see, 65.4%. That's the highest one. So that is the best stock to go into. It's the same for this week. Okay, so let's go into the weekly basis. So for this week, we are in an uptrend. We got 72.5% of the stocks in the S&P. We had a big rally week last week, as I pointed out. There's a lot of volatility, but the market ended up up 1.79%. Okay, so 72.5% of those stocks in the S&P 500 are in an uptrend. And a lot of those hit their upside level. The quality of that trend is very good. So here's what we're going to do. And I'm gonna go into this and show you how you can make this a little find the best stocks that offer a combination of the best stats. But it's as easy as go long in the XLU, all right, or as I just pointed out here with the performance of the best stocks, go long AEP, because AEP is in a market that's moving up. The quality's good. In the best sector, the utility sector, it's the best stock. AEP. Go long AEP. At the open on Monday today, and hold it all week long and close it at the end of the week. Okay, that's as simple as you can get. I'm going to drill it in a little deeper. Okay, we can find high quality stocks and find the best stock within the XLU, and we'll go into that. The other thing you can do is go, if you want to diversify, do what I just did here, what I just showed you, and go long AEP, go into the XLV, look for the best stock in the XLV, which is ANT, and diversify and go long each stock that offers the best opportunity this week. And because the quality is good, you can avoid short positions, right? But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to try to find what I believe the best stock, the best one stock is for this week. Okay, so I'm going to bring the XLU over, and I've already kind of done this, so but I'm going to go through these steps anyway just so you can see the process. And then I'm going to hit the plus symbol next to each stock and bring that over into my portfolio. And I'm going to do my drill-in analysis, right? So we're looking to go long in this market, and we want to find the best stocks or the best sectors to go into within this market that offers a high-quality market. What we first want to do, I got to make sure that I'm on a weekly tab, right? This is important when you're doing a weekly analysis and you go over your portfolio. Make sure you click on weekly because you got to make sure that you're looking at the right stats. Well, what I first want to do, if you remember my filtering process, is I want to make sure that the levels to win profit, makes a profit on both sides. If it doesn't, I want to eliminate it. It doesn't mean it's not good, right? So, for example, SO is in an uptrend and it has a tendency of hitting its upside, right? Its expected high this week is 45.82. It hits that level 63.5% of the time. But the problem is when it hits that level, it has a tendency of selling off. So if I went long SO, and again, I'm not going to talk about this in this video, but what I could do, because it loses money, I could sell calls at that level, right? So I could generate some premium. We're not going to go into that right now. So my first filter is I want to make sure it makes money, and that SO doesn't. And you're going to see in the XLU, there's not a lot that do. In fact, I don't think there's any that we can find. So SCG doesn't, ETR doesn't, EIX doesn't, ED makes money on one side but not the other, Duke doesn't, CMS doesn't, AEP doesn't, and the XLU itself doesn't. Wow, so what do we do? Well, again, we don't have to make it real complicated. We can be confident that the market's up and the quality's good, so let's go long the XLU or the best stocks within the XLU, right? So that's fine. But we want to be able to use the stats of the levels to win data to our favor. So what I'm going to do is we just went through all the XLU stocks on a weekly basis and saw that, well, you know what? Yeah, it is the best sector, and a lot of them do well, but I wonder maybe is there a better sectors, better individual stocks within a sector that I can go into? Well, I'm going to go to the next best sector, all right? This is ranked based on quality. The next best sector is the XLV. Quality of the XLU is 84.3. Quality of the XLV is 77.1. So I'm going to go to the XLV and just know, well, that's still a really high quality sector in a real high quality market. So I'm going to bring all these stocks over and see if there's any good individual stocks I can find there. Because again, I want to find the best one stock just so I can give that to you guys, and you can watch that. And there's multiple things you can do. You can just go long that stock. You can go long the best stocks in the sector. You can go long the XLU itself, or the best stock in the XLU. A lot of stuff. But now let's click on the weekly, and let's use our same filter, right? We want to make sure it makes money on both sides. Okay, all right. ENDP does make money on both sides. ZTS does. MNK does. EW does. Wow. Okay. So as we can see, the XLV already is giving us better opportunities, way better opportunities, just using the levels to win data than the XLU does. Okay, ANTM does not, AET does not, XLV does. Okay, so that's our first filtering method. All right, so now we got it down, to these 7 stocks. So how do we pare that down even further? Well, if you remember, one of the things I want to look for is, it's got to have a high hit rate on the trend side. Let's look at the trend side first, and I want to see a close when it hits this level. So the XLV, for example, it has a 50% probability historically of hitting 75.93. When it hits that level, all right, more often than not, it closes above it because it hits it 50% of the time overall, but it closes above it 34.6% of the time overall. If it were 50% when it hits this, it'd be 25% here. But because it's over 50%, all right, 50% of the HPP, that's a really high quality one. So I'm going to eliminate anything that's less than 50% if there is any. More than 50%, that one's good. That one's good. 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 They're all good. All right, so how are we going to pare this down? The next step I'm going to go into is I want to see that when it hits the downside, it less than 50. So I want more than 50% here. I want less than 50% here. So let's go to the XLV. It's right on 50%. That's okay. BDX is less than 50%. So therefore, I'm going to, because BDX is less than 50% and the XLV is right at 50%, I'm going to eliminate the XLV. Remember, these are all stocks within the XLV, so that's less than 50%, so I'm going to keep that one. That one's more than 50%, so I'm going to eliminate EW. MNK is less than 50%. ZTS is more than 50%, so we're going to eliminate that one. And ENDP is less than 50%, so we'll keep that one. Okay, so so now we've got 4 that make money on both sides that when they hit this level, they close above it more than 50% of the time. When they hit this level, it's less than 50% of the time. So now how do we make our decision on which one of these 4 to go into? They all meet our requirements. Well, all 4 of these are good opportunities, but here's how I use the filtering tool for my advantage. First of all, just based on the trend side, how often does it hit the trend side? ENDP hits the trend side most frequently. It hits it 61.5% of the time. All right, that's higher than these others, so that's good. I also want to see how often it hits the counter trend side. It hits the counter trend side 38.5. So if there's one that hits the counter trend side much less than that, like this, 29.7. All right, so 29.7 compared to 38.5. Well, you know what? This one hits the upside, its trend side less often, but it hits the counter trend side less often too. So MNK is a better option in my opinion because it hits the counter trend side less often, okay? So I'm going to eliminate ENDP and MNK is going to be the better one for now. And look at this one. So we got 36.5 on the downside, 29. So this one hits the trend side more often and has a less tendency of hitting the downtrend, so MNK is better than CAH. Now let's go to BDX. All right, so BDX hits the downside 36.5% of the time. This is also important. How often does it close? 17.3%, whereas MNK hits it 29.7% of the time, only closes 10% of the time. So therefore, MNK is going to be the best stock for us to focus on this week. Okay, MNK is profitable on both sides. When it hits the expected high, which it does on a very frequent basis, 56.8% of the time, it has a tendency of closing above that. When it hits the expected downside, it has a tendency of bouncing and rallying from there. And if we drill into this, we can see technically, you know what, it looks like it's pretty bullish. It just had kind of a breakout here. I think MNK is a great opportunity for this week. That is my best stock I can find for this week, MNK. If you want to keep it even simpler than that, you can just go long the XLU or long the best stock in the XLU for this week, which is ENT, I believe. Yep, I'm sorry, AEP. But I drilled it in a little bit deeper, and I found the best stock that meets all my requirements within one of the best sectors. MNK is my pick for this week. So you've got, I believe you've got 4 options. Go long MNK. That's the best stock. Go long the XLU. That's the best sector. Go long the best stock in the sector, AEP. Or go long each stock in each sector that offers the best opportunities, right? So you just click on each sector, find the stock that offers the highest hit rate, and go along each one of those stocks. Best stock for this week, like I said, is MNK. All right, so let's look at a daily basis. All right, we're going to do that same process on a daily basis. Okay, in this week, we are confident in going long because the quality is good. All right, same thing for this day. All right, today we've got trend is up, quality is good, best sector is the XLU. So let's start, all right, by bringing over all the stocks within the XLU to find the best opportunity for today. And we hope that we can find a stock that meets all our requirements within the best sector. If we can't, we'll go to the next best sector, okay, like we did in the weekly basis. But let's look. Okay, we automatically see, all right, ES, and I'm clicked on a daily, so we're looking for the best stocks, and the XLU is the best sector on today. All right, it's got the highest quality, so I brought all the stocks today. All right, so ES makes money. Good, we'll keep that one. PPL doesn't. PNW doesn't. PCG does. MNK, remember that's from our weekly, so we'll leave that one alone. ETR does. Duke does. DTE, we'll eliminate that one. AEP. And the XLU loses money, so you know what? I usually keep the sector, but we're going to have plenty of opportunities, so let's just eliminate the XLU. So these are the ones. MNK is for next for this week, right? So that's the best stock for this week. So let's look. All right, what we want to see is we want to see over 50% here. Good. Less than 50% here. Good. Over 50. Less than 50. Nope. We can eliminate that one because it's not less than 50. MNK is for the week. ETR, more than 50, less than 50. That one's good. Duke, more than 50, less than 50. That one's good. More than 50, less than 50. Excellent. Okay, good. So now we've got it down to these four. So how do we pick out of these four? Well, first of all, Duke and ETR have the highest hit rates, 53.8%. But we also got to compare that to how often it hits the downside. So as we can see, ES only hits the downside 23.1% of the time. So even though it hits less, the trend side less, it also hits the counter trend side less. So therefore, ES is a better option, in my opinion, than like a Duke. And it's a better option, than a Duke. And let's look at a comparison of Duke and ETR first. So Duke and ETR have the same hit rates. It hits the trend side 53.8% of the time, and it hits the counter trend side 30.8%. Both of them, same, 53.8, 30.8. So how do we know which one's better? And they both make money on the levels to win profit. So how do we pick which one's better? Well, ETR is better, and the reason why is because it closes, when it hits this level, it closes above it more often. ETR does 36.5 compared to 32.7. Okay, so that's a win for ETR. The other reason why ETR is better is because when it hits this level, it has a tendency of bouncing off of that level more often. Because when it hits this level, Duke, 11.5% compared to 7.7. So therefore, ETR is better than Duke. Let's look at AEP. AEP only hits the downside 26.9% of the time. Okay. And it closes above this level 36.5% of the time. So let's compare ES and A. So ES hits 51.9, the same as AEP, but AEP closes above 36.5, whereas ES only closes above 30.8. All right, this is almost a coin flip here because ES hits the downside level and closes below that level less often. AEP hits it a little more often. So this is almost a coin flip. And let's go to the charts to see if we can see anything that gives us a better idea. I got to tell you, this stock looks like it's going to have a little. It's sitting at a pretty key area here that it might struggle with. You see how it was in a downtrend? It might struggle at this area. Let's look at ES. See how that one looks. Very similar. You know, if you look, it's actually real similar patterns. Real similar. Let's look a little further. So ES, they both look like they're at levels that could struggle a little bit here, but let's see if we can find the best opportunity. They're very similar. Again, it's probably a coin flip. I'm going to go with ES. Let's look at ETR and see if we can eliminate that one. ETR um, hits the trend side more often and closes above the trend side more often. Also hits the counter trend side more often. But both have a low, so again, this is about a coin flip. Let's look at this ETR technically. Again, very, very similar. It's about a coin flip. Let's look at it further. ETR's gotten more beat up overall. But it is sitting, again, it's going to be a difficult area, I think, for that stock. You know what? We're going to go with ES. ES just technically looks a little better for today. So ES is the best stock for today. Buy it at the open. Hold it to the close. You can also buy if it hits 50.52. If we have a big sell-off at the beginning of the day and hits 50.52, that's a good place to buy because it typically bounces off that level and closes higher. Or get long at 51.62. That's a great level to buy also. Okay, so for today, buy ES at the open. Feel free to buy 50.52 or buy 51.62. Hold till the end of the day. Close at the end of the day. For the week, you want to go long MNK. And kind of the same thing. Go long MNK. If it hits 29.08, the earlier in the week, the better. But if it hits 29.08, feel free to go long there. That's a great bounce opportunity there. Maybe a good place to sell some puts or do some spreads around for the options traders. Also, if it hits 135.86, feel free to go long there because that makes money. So again, for the week, we want to go long MNK. For today, we want to go long ES. Or you can look at the best stocks in each individual sector. I thank you for your time. Sorry I went a little long-winded today. Hopefully it was good information. But we will talk to you tomorrow. Make it a great day.